Hi, my name is Sammy and I'm going to tell you why I bought a DSLR in 2020. I bought my first full-frame camera in 2018 and it was a Nikon Z6. The Canon R5, R6 hadn't come out yet and I thought that the Nikon had a better feel than the Sony. Just this year I found a used D610 for super cheap. I figured I could always resell it if I didn't like it, but since then it's become my main photography camera. I'm going to tell you about why I like it and what it is that made me make the switch. I'm the type of person that watches tons of reviews before I buy something, and the Z6 was no exception. Before I bought it, I watched tons of YouTube videos and read tons of blogs before I made the decision to go mirrorless. Alright, so these blogs were written by really smart people, and they gave tons of reasons why mirrorless was the better option, including eye autofocus, in-body image stabilization, better video, better available lenses, an electronic viewfinder, lighter and more ergonomic, and also the main wave of the future, meaning that that's the direction where all of the major manufacturers are headed. Before I address each of these, let me tell you a little bit about who I am and what I shoot. I'm not a professional photographer by any means, but I am a really excited enthusiast, and I mainly shoot landscapes and portraits of other people. I'd like to think that I'm a really good photographer and that my images speak to them for themselves, but importantly, these things won't apply for you if you're an event photographer and you shoot things like concerts or weddings. Alright, so first let's talk about eye autofocus. This is one of those things where I think it's really nice to have, but it's most useful if you're shooting quickly or you're shooting moving subjects. So this is the type of thing that would be really important to you if you are an event photographer. But for me and for the types of things that I tend to shoot, I find that I almost always have time to move my focus point to where I need it to be or even focus manually. It also can be really useful if you're going on vacation and you want some nice pictures of yourself, because if you're, say, like handing your camera to your friend to get a picture of you in front of the Eiffel Tower or wherever, your friend isn't gonna probably know a lot about photography, and so eye autofocus is one of these things that's great if you just want to like give it to a friend or give it to someone else to take your picture and put it in auto and have it come out reasonably good. In-body image stabilization is one of those things where, in my opinion, it's always strictly better to have it than not to have it, but I tend to find that the situations in which in-body image stabilization is the most useful aren't situations that I typically shoot with. So it's most useful if you're shooting long lenses in low light and you need that extra stabilization so that your camera doesn't shake when you're shooting something really far away. But for me, I tend to find that if I am indoors and I don't have a tripod and I happen to be shooting someone indoors, usually I'm at a dinner or an event and I don't have enough space to shoot with like a 100mm lens. Alright, so video. This is one of these things where mirrorless cameras are just way better. My D610 sucks for video. I'm filming this on the Z6 right now because like it's just so much better for video. But other than like this one YouTube video, in general, I'm not really a hybrid shooter, and so it's not something that really matters that much to me. Alright, so better available lenses. This is the one that I think a lot of people are actually going to find really surprising. So the mirrorless lens mounts are bigger and they also have a shorter flange distance, which means not only can manufacturers design better lenses because they have more space to work with, but it also means that all of the non-mirrorless lenses can be adapted to mirrorless bodies. So if you have a mirrorless lens, you can use all of the new mirrorless glass, but you can also use all of the old f-mount glass. And in addition to that, all of the camera manufacturers are really putting all of their weight behind their new mirrorless system because they think that's the future and they're kind of like pushing towards that as the future. But I think what's really interesting is, in my opinion, all of the best lenses are actually made by third-party manufacturers. So I think that like the Nikon Z lenses are really good, but my favorite lenses are all Tamron and Sigma lenses. And when Tamron and Sigma make lenses, Sigma is starting to make more and more mirrorless lenses now. But for the most part, they've been making f-mount and DSLR lenses because if you have a DSLR lens, you can adapt it to anything. So my guess is if they want to sell the most lenses, what they do is they make it for the mount that can apply to the most cameras that people have. So my favorite lenses are actually all Tamron and Sigma f-mount lenses, even though I have a mirrorless camera, and even though Nikon is really putting a lot of development into their mirrorless lineup. And so you can adapt these lenses to your mirrorless body, right? If you have like the F to Z adapter, you can always just like take your Tamron 35 1.4 and slap it on a Z6. But I tend to find that the f-mount lenses, for whatever reason, just feel better and they work more smoothly on the DSLR cameras. Like the F to Z adapter is great and it doesn't have any optics in it, but it also adds a lot of extra bulk, and it makes some of these lenses that feel very good on a DSLR feel really kind of heavy and imbalanced and hard to hold on some of the Z bodies. And when I'm using these lenses, it's just much easier for me to use those lenses on a DSLR than it is to use them on a Z system. Really, the Tamron 35 1.4 and the Tamron 35 to 150 are just incredible lenses, and I love using them, and I think they're some of the main reasons why I've stuck with the D610. I think this is something that will change in the future as Nikon continues to develop out their Z lineup, and also as a lot of these third-party manufacturers start developing better and better lenses for new mirrorless bodies. But I think it's one of these things where it's going there, but in my opinion, it's not quite all the way there yet. Alright, so the EVF. This is definitely a personal preference thing. A lot of people really like the EVF. One of the really nice things about it is you see what the camera is going to record. So if your shot is way underexposed and everything looks super dark, you'll see that show up on the EVF. Whereas you won't see that as clearly if you look through the optical viewfinder. But one of the things that I really like is actually when I look through the optical viewfinder, I can see not just the straight out of camera image that the camera is going to record, but I can see with my own eyes all of the contrast and all of the dynamic range in the image that I would really have to play with in Lightroom to get out of the camera. And so when I look through the optical viewfinder, I have a better understanding of not just what I'm about to get straight out of the camera, but really what I can do when I edit my image and what it might look like after I really go through it and think about it in post-processing. Another big thing for me also is, I travel for fun and also like take photos when I travel. And if I'm going out and I'm traveling and I'm taking photos, I don't want to spend my whole travel looking at a video of the place that I traveled to. Like, I really want to see it with my own eyes, and I really want to experience it as I'm taking a photo of it. And I feel like by using an electronic viewfinder, it really takes you out of the experience, and it makes it less like you captured an image that was something that you saw with your own eyes, and more like you only experienced this world through video, and that just doesn't feel as good for me. I don't feel as connected to it, and I don't feel as excited by being there and by traveling somewhere, and it like makes me less excited to just go and get out and shoot. One of the other things about the D610 is it feels like a really polished and a really professional product. Like it feels like Nikon had been making the same design in professional cameras for years and years and years, and they took all of their years of experience and they put it in a D610, and it feels really polished and really professional. Like everything just works the right way. Another thing that I've also noticed is, at least to me, the colors that I'm getting and the white balance that I'm getting straight out of the camera on the D610 with f-mount lenses just looks better to me for whatever reason than the color that I'm getting when I adapt those same lenses onto the Z6. So for me, one of the other big advantages is it just feels like a really rugged and really robust and really complete system in a way that some of these newer designs don't really feel like to me. Alright, so I believe that mirrorless cameras are the future. I think that all of these features are really important if you are an event photographer or if you're trying to track a moving subject. I also think that mirrorless cameras will become more important as resolution size increases. So what I mean by that is if you're shooting a 5 megapixel image and there's a little bit of camera shake, you might not really notice it that much in the final image. But if you're shooting a 100 megapixel image and you have a little bit of camera shake or your focus is very slightly off and you zoom all the way to 100%, you will start to notice those little differences more and more as resolution improves. And so I think that a lot of these features that mirrorless cameras bring to the table are only going to get more and more important over time. That being said, like the D610 is a great camera and you're still getting a 24 megapixel full frame sensor that I think is pretty similar in quality to the sensor that you're getting in the Z6 for, I think, almost a 8-year-old camera now. And like, if you go out and shoot with it today, I think you're gonna get great images, and I've been really happy with it. And it's been the camera that I stuck with and really decided to do most of my photography with. Alright, so thanks for watching my rant. As always, the most important thing is to get outside and to have fun and to shoot some good images. Thanks so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed.